Best deal I ever negotiated. The lower right there is a bus shelter. You'll notice there's nothing on here that says Courtesy Chevrolet until Bill Brewell was driving down the road one day and recognized this guy. He didn't know that this was us. Reason why is because the payments as low as $99 a week. Get free gas for a year. You got gas.com. I'll show you how that campaign worked. Consumer guide, approved dealer. This, if you notice, it doesn't say Courtesy Chevrolet. This is a stealth campaign. There's a billboard. There's a bus shelter for the stealth campaign. I go on and on and on, and we'll show you some examples. Now, remember I was talking about URLs and domains? They're like toll-free phone numbers. Let me give you an example. This is a microsite, lead form from a microsite. America's #1 Chevrolet dealer will pay your car buyer referrals. The whole messaging of this campaign was, we will pay you or your designated nonprofit organization up to $300 to refer a friend, relative, neighbor, or coworker that buys a new or used vehicle from Courtesy Chevrolet. Fill in your information, or where do we make the check? Now, tell us about who your friend is that you're going to drop a dime on that we can sell a car to. Simple enough concept, right? These URLs all pointed to the same microsite. But every one of those URLs was attached to promotions and advertising on different websites and in different places on the internet. When I looked at my Google Analytics for this microsite, and I looked at the lead form confirmation page, the page that appears when somebody submits the form, by referring URL, I could see not only how much traffic each one of these sent, but what was the conversion rate from each of the sources where this came from. So for example, you see I have in red ChevyReferral.com. We blasted that on the radio because it's radio friendly, ChevyReferral.com. Or at least we thought it was until we realized that nobody knows how to spell referral. ChevyReferral.com. Once we realized that, later on we shifted to ChevyFriends.com, ChevyBuyers.com. We tried them all. But it allowed us to analyze which advertising sources were most effective because of the use of multiple domains. There's an example of some of the domains. And some of these, I always like to, full disclosure to you guys, some of these domains I owned before I ever went to work for Courtesy Chevrolet from when I was at Reynolds Web Solutions. I've been collecting domains since 1997. So I have a good set of portfolio of them that I use to help dealers with. For example, I own ToyotaTrucks.com. About 10,000 unique visitors a month go to ToyotaTrucks.com just because of the URL. So when I'm working with a Toyota dealer and they need a little shot in the arm, I would point to ToyotaTrucks.com to their truck inventory. That'll usually pick them up an extra 100 leads a month. A little shot in the arm just to get them going. So, and then, you know, I'm going to reiterate this. You can't do the stuff I'm talking about with one website. You know what one website is like? One website is like having one billboard. It's a damn good billboard. Man, look at that billboard. It's animated. I got an LCD giant billboard, like one of these TV screen billboards here in Vegas. I got the Mac Daddy killer billboard of all time. That's a lot of dealers that I work with when I first worked with them. They got one website, and it's got everything. It's got every bell and whistle. It's got more ways to get lost and not buy a car than anything I've ever seen. Get rid of this idea that a dealership should have one website. A dealership should have dozens of websites. They should have YouTube channels, blogger pages, WordPress pages, Facebook pages, Twitter profiles with custom graphics. The idea of having one website is so 1998, it makes me want to gag. So lose it. You come to Internet Battle Plan, you want to take this stuff seriously? Ditch that whole bullshit idea that one website is enough, because one is not enough. You have to have multiple websites to be successful in digital marketing at a car dealership, Period. End of story. I'm not even open to discussion on the topic. URL assets. These are the real deal. These are page 1 of 3. The URLs I managed at Courtesy. Page 2, page 3. I want to share something. You see these Tucson Chevrolets? One of my proudest moments. I got away with that for 18 months before General Motors shut us down. We were selling 20 to 35 cars a month in Tucson for 18 months before they figured out what we're doing. And that's because the 2 dealers in Tucson were so asleep at the wheel with digital marketing, it was just ripe. It was ripe. I had a higher closing rate on leads from Tucson than I did on leads from Phoenix, mostly because of that guy in the back of the room over there. With Tucson, there was very little competition on the web. It was 120 miles from Phoenix. Isn't that what Tucson is, John? About $1.20? 120 miles from Phoenix. My closing rate on Tucson leads was about 15%. My closing rate on leads from Phoenix was about 8%. You need to identify the target-rich environments near your dealership. Where are your happy hunting grounds? What communities are underserved? When I was working for Group 1 Automotive out of Texas, in Lubbock, there are stores in Lubbock, Texas. You know what we realized? Those towns in New Mexico, along the border close to Texas, were our ripest and most fertile sources of conquest business outside of our local markets. Yes, sir?
Where did they go to?
Who?
All of these URLs.
They went to various microsites, websites, deep links within my main websites. But I had about 5 main websites.
Okay.
So they went all over them. They went anywhere I wanted them to go. Yes, sir?
What does it cost to maintain keeping the names, whether you use them or not, per year, per name?
Great question. GoDaddy, I think you're probably looking at about, what, $9 a year? Without getting the El Cheapo version. I pay $9.25 from Network Solutions, because when you get up, I personally own about 3,000 domains. Network Solutions is $35 a year to normal retail. You can negotiate. If you're going to manage a large portfolio like this, a couple things I want to say. I recommend Network Solutions. Now, I have a lot of friends, because GoDaddy is based in Phoenix, in the Phoenix area. I have a lot of friends that work at GoDaddy, and they're great people. But ultimately, GoDaddy is a reseller. Network Solutions is the original icon source, ICANN. If you can negotiate a deal with Network Solutions, don't pay $35 a year. You can't do this at $35 a domain a year. Just do the math. Okay, it's just too much. But I negotiated a deal. Actually, at the time I first started doing this, we were paying $12 a year. And later on, I negotiated it down to $9.25. And then the biggest disaster that ever hit Courtesy Chevrolet after I left working there, and I hate to say this, but the guy that replaced me, I recommended him, and it was a total mistake. I'll be the first to admit, I've made several major mistakes in my career. One of them was turning down the general manager job for the first Lexus store in San Diego, because as I told the owner, who the heck's going to pay 30 grand for a Toyota with chrome? I made a mistake. Hear them say it. And Roger Sather, the owner of that store, about every 5 years he likes to call me up and say, hey, remember when you turned down the job for GM at the Lexus store? Yeah, boss. The point I'm trying to make there is managing the cost of your domains. If you're going to get into this, realize that it's negotiable. Whoever you choose to use. I prefer Network Solutions. Other people prefer GoDaddy. Still other people prefer other registrars, domain registrars. But one thing I want to touch on in that question, make no mistake about it, the dealership should own the domains, not the suppliers. John, would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, the biggest mistake that I've seen, like I said, I know a mistake. I turned down the GM job at the Lexus store. The next biggest mistake, almost of an equal or greater magnitude, would be to not own your domains. Make sure your legal corporation, the entity that is set up to operate the business, owns the domains, not an individual. Not an individual.
A question, Ralph.
Yes, sir.
You go back to your previous slide on the bottom left-hand corner. You have one that you own a website called Roach Credit.
You got that right, baby.
And
Well, it's probably available because we only used that for a little while. It was like an inside joke.
Okay.
Okay? So certain phone calls that we get in the BDC, sir, you need to go to redroachcredit.com. Well, what's that mean? What's a roach? Sir, that'd be you. So, not everything we did was right. Remember what I started off by saying? You experiment. So we got rid of that. But I will tell you this much. Can you imagine what Power Chevy and PowerDealers.com is? That's AutoNation. In Phoenix, the AutoNation stores are called Power. So we used to use that to poach traffic from Power. There's all the versions of Phoenix Chevy Dealer. That was for our Dealix imitation lead generator site. The message was when you submitted a lead, okay, now we're going to send this out to all the Chevy dealers in Phoenix, and whoever has the best price will be the response that we allow to go to you. Guess who had the best price all the time? You got it, babe. We really did. Absolutely unbeatable? I'm sorry. This is that for John's benefit. But hopefully I answered the question. So leads generated. Let's do a level set here. So when we started, about 2,000, 1,800, 2,100 leads a month.